Stand, 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 stand. Stand and sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of work and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for the right. We've won freedom's fight, all one strong and free. Bonse tulibana b'Afrika, uwasena minwa na lesa, nomba bonse twendele pamo, twalilubula, twikatane bonse. Jinga jomwe tulilila, mbule mualumu no mujisi, mbulisi wazembwa uluga Zambia omubotu tonse tuswangane. Timtamande Mungu watu adalise Zambia, Zambia omasuka pasipande bendera yatu, pasipande bendera yatu Zambia, timtamande ugozi dipavu.
Praise be to God.
Praise be, praise be.
Bless our great nation.
Zambia, Zambia, free men we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one strong and free.
PAMODZI timaumo, TIYENDE PAMODZI timaumo. As young freedom fighters, our vision was building a nation of prosperity from hard work, perseverance, and God's grace. We use this passion and our hands to build what we now all know as Mother Zambia. That was a generation ago. Now it is time for the youths to take up the mantle of building the nation. As much as we need accountants, lawyers, and other white-collar workers, we also need quality craftsmen and women. If we want to build our nation, we need to know how to build properly, trained in the best standards, so we need to do it ourselves. To my dear youth and fellow Zambians, I say, let us take up this challenge to build the nation. Become a craftsperson to provide for you and your family. I encourage you to take up this challenge, to become a hero in an overall. Be an overall hero today. God bless you.
Hello, good evening, viewers, listeners. Wherever you're joining us from all over the world, we welcome you. I'm glad to be here tonight. My name is Patricia Kangombe Mulenga. I am your guest host on the radio station this evening, and we will be talking to Professor Nkanduluwo. She is the current minister in the administration of President Edgar Lungu. She's currently the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries. And as you all know, we are in mourning as a country, Zambia, indeed as a world, and Africa has lost a hero, a statesman, a father to the nation of Zambia. We know that there's so much that Dr. Kaunda had done during his time. Personally, I have a personal story, and if you want to hear more about that, please stay tuned. We will be bringing you Nkanduluwo to tell us how she remembers Dr. Kaunda as a girl growing up, having benefited from the education policy that Dr. Kaunda had in place. So we will be hearing all that from herself, and I'm not going to preempt anything. So I just want to ask you to stay tuned as we will be bringing Nkanduluwo very shortly.
We in Zambia are peaceful people, peace-loving. I challenge anyone to say today here that Zambia is a warmongering nation. We have done all these things in search of peace, but it has to be genuine peace, based on sincere, genuine majority rule. Zambians will be born out of our blood.
PAMODZI dimtima umbo TIYENDE PAMODZI dimtima umbo TIYENDE PAMODZI dimtima umbo TIYENDE dimtima umbo Atate Kaunda tiza kuyewani Atate Kaunda tiza kuyewani Atate Kaunda tiza kuyewani Kumulani mwa mutendere You fought for the freedom of Zambia Let us free from our oppressor's hand. So now we can stand and sing for Zambia, proud and free. The history of Africa cannot be complete without your love for her freedom. You inspired hope to all. A humble teacher, you were. TIYENDE PAMODZI dimtima umbo TIYENDE PAMODZI dimtima umbo TIYENDE PAMODZI dimtima umbo TIYENDE dimtima umbo Atate Kaunda tiza kuyewani Atate Kaunda tiza kuyewani Atate Kaunda tiza kuyewani Kumbulani mwa mutendere Chikundi Chanu demonstrated by bringing us together. Your leadership uniting the nation. Diverse languages and one flag. You preached unity to all mankind. Yeah, you preached freedom to all. And for this vision, you were willing to die. For the struggle, you fought for the cause. Oh, we'll remember you as a father of a nation. We'll remember you as we sing TIYENDE PAMODZI DIMTIMA UMODZI TIYENDE PAMODZI DIMTIMA UMODZI TIYENDE DIMTIMA UMODZI Atate Kaunda Tiza Kuyewani Atate Kaunda Tiza Kuyewani Atate Kaunda Tiza Kuyewani Pumulani mwa mutendere Atate TIYENDE Atate TIYENDE Atate TIYENDE
All men are great, none greater than another. But some men surrender, while others fight and duck for cover. None could be said to be more valiant than another, but surrender is only seen as great if for a friend, lover, or brother. Graciously his white handkerchief waves as a sign of surrender, not to defeat, but to a fight like no other. Diligently he gave his life to serve all the people. Won the fight for independence. We are free, therefore there will be no sequel. Proudly we sing our national anthem. What a powerful song. Rightfully, like his fellow legendary African giants, he will continue to receive his accolades long after his transition. May your soul rest in peace, Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda.
I've heard my song several times, I'll still sing it. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. We shed cheer, not a tear, make it gay. Forgive me, a smile I can keep in my heart for a while, far away. Till we meet once again, you and I. We shed cheer, not a tear, make it gay. One Zambia! One. God is hearing me. I can never sell out Africa. Never. Not me. Not these boys here. Not these girls here. We are men and women of principle. We have done all these things in search of peace. But it has to be genuine peace. Based on sincere, genuine majority rule. Anything else, you can kill us. Zambians will be born out of our blood. Will continue to fight. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye.
We shed tear, not a tear, make it gay. Forgive me, a smile I can keep in my heart for a while, far away. Till we meet once again, you and I. We shed tear, not a tear, make it gay.
Your Excellency, the first Republican President of the Republic of Zambia, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, Kanabesa, Vatata, twamupokelela nensansa ishikalamba sana mwishina ili akwalesa mkulu tata, nomwana, nompashi wa mshilo, tuletila kuliba kateka wesu tata, mwaiseni pomkwayi mwaiseni, nakapundu
You are the hero.
Hello and welcome back. I'm sure you enjoyed just as much as I did watching all those wonderful tributes. You know how they say about great people like Dr. Kenneth Kaunda was, and of course he did live long and he ran his race very well. You don't cry when such people pass, you celebrate. So whatever tears you have, whatever tears anybody is going to shed, even at the time of his burial, there will be tears of joy. And I have the greatest pleasure to hear more from a person who herself benefited a lot from the great policies that this great man, the late President Kenneth Kaunda had, a woman who perhaps might not even need any introduction in the Zambian circles, African continent, or even on the global platform. I would like to welcome our one and only Professor Nkanduluwo. And you will know that Parliament was dissolved in Zambia as the country heads to the elections. So her last portfolio was that of Minister of Livestock and Fisheries. Madam Nkanduluwo, I will leave you to tell the viewers, our audience, much more about yourself. What I want to do right now is to give you a very, very warm welcome and to say I am delighted to be here to have this chat with you, Mom. Apologies about that. Things do happen on live transmission. I am now delighted to say Professor Nkanduluwo, the woman who needs no introduction as such, but I will take the privilege to say she is the first female professor in Zambia. She will tell us more about that herself. She has served in various ministerial portfolios, 7 if my memory serves me right. And we will be delighted to hear more from herself about that. Madam Professor Nkanduluwo, it is my great pleasure to welcome you, Ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening, and indeed it's also my honor and privilege and pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you, Ma'am. I did say earlier that yes, of course, we are in mourning. We are mourning our great leader, our father of the nation, the great legend, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. But as we know, as per our culture and even elsewhere, when a person reaches that age and they will have achieved so much in life, like Dr. Kaunda did, when they pass, it's tears of joy that we pass. Everything about my.
I'm crying. Yeah, indeed it is. But also, you know, but as human beings, you keep hoping he can continue and continue inspiring us.
Indeed, indeed. Before we get into all that, I know, yes, I have said Professor Nkandulo, and some younger generation, especially out here in the diaspora, may not really know who is Professor Nkandulo and what is this professorship all about.
Yeah, well, Professor Nkandulo comes from a very humble background, but a royal family on both sides. My dad is a descendant of the Chitimukulu chiefdom in Malole. My mother is a daughter to Chief Chilesa Kaunda of the Biza tribe. And they were both teachers. And my father was one of the friends to Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. They grew up together. They both ended up as in Lubwa Mission, and that's where I was born. And yes, I was born at Lubwa Mission Hospital. In fact, as I was being baptized, the mother to Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, Helen, was actually my godmother. And I started school here in Lusaka at a very small school next to Munari School. A lot of people know about Munari Secondary School, but there is a primary school called Tunduya. So when I became of Parliament for Munari, I was very happy to be proud of having come from Tunduya Primary School. And I went through secondary school at Roma Girls and Lincoln Convent here in Lusaka. I pursued my university career for 7 years in Russia at the Moscow State University, and specialized as a microbiologist, and came back to Zambia to work at the University Teaching Hospital. And I started doing some research because as I also was teaching, and as an academician, one of the things we do is research. And I used to research on sleeping sickness production for a vaccine. And that made me interested in immunology. So a year later, I got married to Dr. Francis Manda and left for the UK to the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, where I pursued a PhD in immunology. And at the same time, I also pursued a master's degree at Brunel University in Middlesex. So if you like, in my 4 years of being in the UK, I was able to have a PhD and a master's degree in immunology. So I came back to...
That's an amazing record. I don't know how you did that, Professor Luo. I don't know how you did that.
You know, when you look back, you say, God is kind and God is wonderful. So when I came back to Zambia, I came at a time when the HIV/AIDS epidemic was just starting. And I recall Professor Chintu, Professor Bailey, and Professor Hira saying to me, look, we are having problems with these patients. As a young immunologist, can you tell us what's going on? And then I contacted a colleague of mine, Richard Taylor, because we had been reading about HIV while in London. And I said, look, I'd like to send some blood samples, which I'd like us to see what's happening to these bloods. And that's how we confirmed the first case of HIV. So if you like, I was amongst the 4 doctors that identified the first case of HIV. So I started researching, putting up programs. The first ever response to HIV in Zambia, which is known as the Short-Term Plan, actually was the author and implementer of the Short-Term Plan, which rolled into a lot of other programs which are in my hands. The separation of blood transfusion services, the testing across the country for HIV, the prevention of mother-to-child transmission, the setting up of the National AIDS Council, and so on and so on. So with all that, I was publishing and writing. I'm just giving a short summary because I can spend the whole day talking about that.
That's a very, very rich, brief summary you've given there, Dr. Luo. And I know that we will come back to some of those things. But before I lose my trend of thought, have we lost Dr. Luo?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Before I lose my trend of thought, you did mention that you were born in Lubwa Mission in Chinsali. I am
Yes.
aware that Dr. Kaunda was born in Chinsali. So
Yes.
could it be that he had great influence on your life? The fact that you were both born in the same place?
No, because he was born much, much earlier than myself. But he was a great friend to Dad. And I think uh, Dad being a teacher and my mother being a teacher, and just the whole interaction, family interaction with Dr. Kaunda, my uncle, Mr. Simon Kapwepwe, brought us all together as a family. And I think as children, we did a lot of things together. And what was, I think, interesting about the three parents is the fact that at a time when people believed that if you have daughters for children, then they were not worthy anything, these three actually invested in us as girls. I come from a family of 8, only 2 brothers who are both late, and 6 of us girls. So our parents invested in us in terms of education. And they actually made it very clear to all of us that education was paramount. And it was, in fact, not even difficult with any of them not to pursue education. So if you look at the Kapwepwe children, you look at the Kaunda children, you look at us, I think there is a lot of similarity. So what I can say is that it's the sum total of our parents' influence on all of us.
Right. That's beautiful, beautiful story to hear. And I must say that you were one of the lucky few whose parents did put their feet down to ensure that their girl children went to school. I recall my father, may he sorry now, he used to say he had sisters who he believed were very brilliant, but they did not have the opportunity to go to school because priority was given to the boy child. So my father went to school and his sisters never had the opportunity. So quite good to hear that your parents did put their feet down and had a different mindset. And look where you are today. If they didn't, encourage you to go to school, it would have been a different story. So talk me through the time you were growing up as a young girl, hearing about Dr. Kaunda and the struggle, the movement. I'm sure even as young people, you must have this vibrant, Kenneth Kaunda leading the movement. Could you take us back there and just share your memories?
Yeah, well, I didn't only hear about Dr. Kaunda. As I grew up, we actually interacted with him because when they would be, they will be running away, we didn't understand that they are being pursued by the police. They sometimes would be hidden at our parents' home. And so we actually interacted. And for us, especially when you are young, you just get mesmerized when you start hearing about all these stories, and would sit and ask them a lot of questions and even ask, why are they putting their lives in danger? But one thing when I look back is that when people are united for a purpose, a lot of things happen. And one thing that always runs through my mind was the unity that existed between the team, the freedom fighters, the sacrifice they made, especially when they would be arrested, the way they used to chain them. I think about it and say, oh my God, why would we in Zambia even not harness, and also the peace that we are enjoying? Because I cannot even imagine what would be happening to this country if those men and women did not sacrifice for us. We are enjoying Zambia the way it is because there were people who sacrificed. And I was talking to some people a few days ago, but that is one way in which we should remember Dr. Kaunda. We should remember Dr. Kaunda and his team for the sacrifice that they made. But for that sacrifice to be made, it requires a different level of leadership. And I think that's what stands out, that Dr. Kaunda was a great leader. He embraced everybody. He had a lot of love. I cannot even express the amount of love he had. But I think for people to understand how you can liberate your own country, but still say, I'm not satisfied. I have to make sure that other countries around me are also liberated.
Yeah.
Even as you liberate those countries, you say that is not enough. How do we unite Africa so that the rest of the countries on the African continent can be also enjoy the freedom? And that's how the birth of the what is A today was done. That is that amount of love he had for humanity. And that is amazing.
Sure. It is amazing indeed. And should we even be surprised why, look, the neighboring countries are all, they've all declared, national mourning in their country? It's because they're very grateful of, the love and the embrace that Dr. Kaunda extended beyond our borders. I think for him, if I may recall, there were times when we used to learn in civics that the drawings, demarcating the countries didn't mean anything to him. Human beings, despite the borders, were all human and they did good treatment. They did even. So, growing up, and of course you did have the privilege to interact with Dr. Kaunda, as obviously, as you've mentioned, he was friends with your parents. What do you recall being the role of the women at the time that the men were involved in the struggle and risking lives? What was it like? Would you sit with your moms and would they talk about their fears, their concerns?
Yeah, well, that time we spent a lot of time with moms and less times with dads. But I remember that one incident where, when food is served, it would be the moms and girl children are eating on their own, and the boy children and their fathers are eating alone. So myself and my cousin, Chilofia Kapwepwe, would see that the better food is going the other side. So we would go to sit right next to our dads and say, oh, we are not full. And then they will be invited to eat with them. Now that was actually taboo. And then when we go back in the evening, my mom would read us a riot act that, you should know. But it was so interesting how our fathers could embrace us and eat with them. So I think that this is why Dr. Kaunda and others, as soon as we got independence, they set up what was called a Women's League, which was headed by Mama Chibesa Kankasa, who is also my older sister, to just try and push the gender agenda. And today, again, when you look at the gender agenda in Zambia, you cannot discuss it without remembering Mama Chibesa Kankasa. So I think that the treatments which girl children were getting, our parents were observing, and they wanted to see equity and equality for humanity.
Okay. Would you say that could have been a preserve of the few privileged, perhaps, and that wasn't a reflection of what was happening in other families?
Because I had the privilege to interact with a lot of other families, I can say that to start with, you needed one or two people to start showing others that these are also part of human development. And then you start catalyzing everybody else. And it starts now having a spiral effect to others. And I think that the Lubwa boys, as they were popularly known, I think created this spiral effect. And once they were given an opportunity, my father, of course, was not a politician. Once they were given the opportunity to run the country, they had to find a way of promoting the gender agenda. But
we'll come to that. Maybe you will be able to give
us say that Dr. Kaunda has certain principles that are unique. Have you ever understood why he remained a vegetarian? This is because during the independence struggle, you had to buy everything through a little window. And I think he wanted to go and buy meat. He got so upset to be sold meat through a little window that he declared that he would not eat meat. And until his death, he remained a vegetarian. And another Paul Mushindo, who was also a missionary, also vowed never to wear shoes until Zambia was independent. These are the principles under which they lived. And for me, I think this was amazing. And when I look at our time, I look around and say, who is doing that? Where you just say, this is not right, and therefore I'll stand by it, and you give up things to ensure that you fight the fight that you want to fight.
Yeah, clearly you can see that there was a lot of fortitude at display there, and this is what you like to, as a people, we aspire to see in leadership. But to sort of take us back again, I know that Dr. Kaunda had the love for the guitar, and you having had the privilege to grow up in and be able to interact with him. Did you get a chance to learn how to play the guitar from him, or listen to him play the guitar at all?
It's interesting that you asked me that question. The truth of the matter is that I never learned to play guitar from Dr. Kaunda, or even attempt to sing, because I don't have a good voice. I have a croaky voice. However,
you'd be surprised if you tried it.
However, because of the educational system we had, you actually were having what are called extramural studies, where you start looking at exploring your potential. And one of the things I did explore as a potential in me is dancing. And I won a lot of trophies in my early age in dancing. The second potential that I had was playing netball. And we won a lot of netball games across Zambia. But interestingly, towards the end of my secondary school, I decided to learn to play guitar. But I couldn't sing. So what used to happen is we were invited on television shows. I'll be there playing the guitar while my friends are singing. But I lost that when I went to university, and I didn't pursue it. But I pursued dancing because I thought I used to enjoy dancing. But I gave up on the guitar.
And you still dance?
Oh, yes.
Oh, brilliant. Next time I visit home, I probably will. I might be lucky to get an opportunity to see you dance.
Oh, sure. I love dancing. Even as a politician, when I'm campaigning, I dance as I'm campaigning.
Wow. Professor Luo, Dr. Kaunda did uphold family values. Peace. He always preached peace and love. What would you like to remember Dr. Kaunda? How would you like to remember Dr. Kaunda in terms of what he preached on family values, peace in the country, peace in Africa, peace in the world?
In fact, yesterday I was speaking to a team of people on how, when all this is done, the state funeral is over, and so on, opportunity to speak to that, I would suggest that an institute is created in memory of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, which will be a peace institute, and or even a peace garden, which people can travel from all over the world, come to the peace garden. And what would be the constitution of this institute or the peace garden? Get everybody to celebrate their parents around the theme of peace. And people could come and visitors, of the different families, celebrating either their mother or father around peace. Because what this will do, peace will become part of our values in this country. Or have a garden of trees. You know, when you study trees, you find that there are certain trees that are associated with peace. There are also certain birds that are associated with peace, like doves. So have this garden, have a portion of trees where you have all these peace trees, have doves and things like that. So for me, we need to do something really great, innovative, that made legendary man remembered in a very distant future. His legacy just not so hoping Panj Kaunda as the eldest son and the girls could start thinking over big. And I know that it will be very easy to set it up.
Yeah.
Because of them that loved KK. I'm sure they would love something like that to happen. And yeah. Or have an institute where you do state-of-the-art lectures.
I think the signal there is sort of playing up. I'm still here, and I hope that Professor Luo is still here as well. So with all this rich information, you know how Dr. Kaunda became a vegetarian and all the wonderful things that perhaps the younger generation of today, the young millennials and even young Zambians in the diaspora might not know about. I know that I learned some things back in the day during my civics lessons. I don't know if that is still in place. How are we going to ensure that this rich history is not lost, but is preserved, and we ensure that the younger generation gets to know about Dr. Kaunda and the things that he stood for, and just the beautiful legacy that he has left?
In fact, I had the privilege to serve as Minister of Chiefs and Traditional Affairs, and under my charge was the National Heritage Conservation Commission and also the museum. So the things that have happened is that we went and refurbished his Chilenja house, including the so it's now become the Conservation Commission. And in the Livingstone Museum, I was learning when I was minister that this is one of the most visited part of the museum, where it's dedicated to just Dr. Kenneth Kaunda and team during the independence struggle. And I think we many things find their way to the museum so that children can it must find its way into the museum so that can out and if sculpture so that we can.
I am sorry to the audience and to everybody if you are having interruptions as I'm experiencing here. I actually missed out quite a bit of what Professor Luo was explaining there. I don't know, studio, is Professor Luo still there? I have lost her screen on my screen. So I'm wondering if she's there. But very interesting, very, very interesting history and the information that we've learned about Dr. Kaunda there. And I hope that there will be some people out there taking notes as a reminder of things that we need to ensure are put in institutions of learning, in museums, as the professor was explaining. I was just saying I'd lost you a little bit there, so I missed out a bit on some of the things you were saying that are being done to ensure that this beautiful legacy is not lost.
Yeah, I was saying that we needed to hype the sections in the museum where because that's one of the best places to actually put a lot of things to remember Kaunda, including his sculptures now, his white handkerchief. And because we have identified some of the places as national heritage conservation, I think we need to start now documenting those things. I know, for example, before he died, he spoke to us a lot as a family about going to do an engraving with a sort of a symbol in our village, in Chief Sakunda's village, where the watershed speech of the cha-cha-cha was done. And he kept saying to me, Bamayo, have you done it? Bamayo, have you done it? And as I was reflecting on his death, I was saying, oh my God, I think we better go one of these days to go and put up some statue on this site, the Cha-Cha-Cha site. And many other places he had mentioned that we needed to put the remembrance because of the fact that these are part of his history, because that's where he had the watershed speech of the church.
Yeah.
So we need to bring all these things together as a way of remembering this great man.
That's very true. I agree that we really need to make these places visible, and as part of education for the younger people, make them accessible as well. People will only go to places where they know it to be easy to get there, and there's information that they're going to find, and be able to enjoy as well. You mentioned the name Sakunda. You are also Eluo, and I know that there's Mona somewhere in your names. Which is which? Is are all those part of one family? Sakunda, Luo, Mona?
Yes, they are one family. They are one family. My mother is a Sakunda from the Mona clan. And because she married Mr. Luo, so I'm called Nkand Luo. So my mother is a daughter to Chief Sekunda. So we are one family.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, Professor Luo, I want to ask you about the peace in the country. We know that peace is going to be the greatest legacy for Dr. Kaunda. Are we doing justice to that legacy as a country?
I act in the following manner. For peace to be achieved, it takes two to tango. And people must be committed to it. And the second thing that is very critical to peace is love for each other. The third is being able to embrace others. The fourth is
Have we temporarily lost Professor Luo?
tweva banimbi pachunga parish ulukabarongo ne bantangi bakikwero bobetusha pamonova katino medado mazombwe Father Joseph Grosio, Father Kira Lerudis, Father Lawrence Tomazini, Wera Muchibumba Chabakwaya, Pa Christine Lupia, Pa Christine Piri, Neba Alice Mwansa Musonda. Balomba mioyo yabo, ikokoloke mutende, urusa lwakwalisa.
A very warm welcome back to all of you, our viewers and listeners, wherever you are joining us from. Perhaps that was the breaking transmission was timely for us to have a little short interlude. That music, welcome back, Professor Luo. At this point, Professor, I just want to bring your attention to what is happening in our country right now, which is also affecting the rest of the world. How COVID-19 is ravaging the country. And I know that as a microbiologist, this is a great area of your expertise. What message would you want to pass on to Zambians at this point in time?
I think our message is here, and I just want to emphasize the message that COVID-19, people have to take personal responsibility. Any infectious disease can be dangerous because of the easy transmission from person to person. And unfortunately, this particular virus is aerosol. It's found in the air. So the whole issue of masking, it has to happen, whether you like it or not. Even people like me with asthma, I've learned to mask. But our people are taking it casually. They don't mask. Secondly, the whole issue, and I call it physical distancing, more than social distancing. It has to be physical distancing is extremely crucial. And stopping all these big gatherings is critical. And also, now that there is a vaccine, to ensure that people go to the clinics and be vaccinated. We have to take personal responsibility. Then I'm protecting the next person. So in the constituency that I was, Munali, we actually used to have messages. We would mount PA systems to just ensure that people are reminded on a daily basis the importance of masking, physical distancing, reducing overcrowding, and when the vaccine was brought into Zambia, mobilizing people to be vaccinated. In fact, what has happened, who received the vaccine, even if they get COVID, it's been less severe than those who were not vaccinated. And we can't continue losing people. That we are losing people in Zambia. So I'd like to say to people of Zambia, can we protect each other? Let us be our brothers or sisters' keeper.
Indeed. How much of the population would you say have actually had the opportunity to be vaccinated?
Our signal is really bad.
Sorry, Professor, perhaps you didn't get my question because of the break in transmission. I was just wondering whether you are able to share how much of the Zambian population at the moment have had the opportunity to be vaccinated.
I don't have the actual figures, but I know that all the vaccines that were brought into the country have been used, and people are now getting their second vaccinations. But I wouldn't speculate the figures. And I myself have already And I think as people are now getting their second vaccine, the government expects more vaccines this weekend to do a second round of vaccination.
Okay. Okay. Being in your profession, you will know that behavior change does require sustained campaign messages, drumming in messages for people to be able to get it. Is there sufficient campaign, enough messaging to make people aware of the seriousness of the matter? Why are people not taking it seriously?
Actually, you know, and I want to contrast my work in HIV. And before I do the contrast, I want to say that in terms of our healthcare systems in Zambia, Zambia has evolved. I know that of the nature of politics that have been introduced in Zambia by the opposition, especially you understand that Zambia is no longer the same. Our healthcare and one of the things which we have established is a public health institute, which is headed by Professor Victor Mkonga. And through the Public Health Institute, we are not only doing messaging, but there is community engagement and also and making sure that wherever we know is the epicenter of the epidemic, we focus on that particular place. So yes, indeed, there is a lot of public awareness. Goes as like then everybody starts jumping all over the place. And this is exactly what happened during the HIV epidemic. Until we lost was that saying, oh, indeed, there is HIV. What has been said about corona is that corona is about people who fly. Those who travel all over the world are the ones who are susceptible to corona. Now, corona is in our community. So we just have to continue and sustain the awareness raising and community engagement, opinion leaders participating, getting volunteers to work with us in the communities until such a time that even through vaccinations, Zambians get a herd immunity.
Yeah, sure, indeed. It has to be a sustained campaign, otherwise our people will continue to perish. And it makes very sad reading every day. You see your phone ringing, a message comes from home. You're wondering who next, has succumbed to this horrible, horrible disease. Now, I'm aware that we do not have much time left.
I'd like to say, especially, sometimes you read all sorts of things on social media where our colleagues in the diaspora, some of them write sorts of ugly things on social media. You see, if a head of state says, okay, according to our constitution, we cannot break the constitution, the elections are going ahead, but these are the guidelines for the campaigns. Let's not have big gatherings. Let us just campaign door to door, because when you are moving to the next house, you obviously follow the guidelines. Then you have colleagues in the opposition start these huge drives, even when going to do the nomination, they take the whole country to the nomination. I think for me, that is doing things with impunity. If you contrast when the President Edgar Chagwa went for his nomination, and I'm privy to that because I was his running mate, we adhered to every guideline. There were very, very few people that were there. Alas, our colleagues came, the UPND, they even imported people from outside. And I think that that is being irresponsible. And again, the people, I think it is important for us to put politics aside and put the lives of our people first. Because if we kill them, who's going to vote for us on 12th August? Or if you win elections, who are you going to preside over? Because you've killed everybody. So these are some of the challenges we are having as a country regarding the COVID-19. But I hope as we go further, again, I want to take it back to Dr. Kaunda, as we mourn love for humanity, the man who had peace as his agenda, the man who embraced not only people, but even the ideas, we start taking heed of what our public health experts, our doctors are saying, so that we start following the guidelines in terms of our campaign and reduce the infections in our community.
No, you're very right, Professor. Every life matters. So personal responsibility is of utmost importance. Now, in winding up, I would like to ask what your message would be, or that you would like to share with the new generation regarding the vision of our forefathers, and you had the opportunity to actually interact with them, lived through that period. You enjoyed a good education because of the education policies that were in place at the time. I don't know if today a young lady who aspires to be another Professor Nkanduluo can easily attend as you did. But in a nutshell, what sort of message would you want to leave to the younger generation as regards the vision of the forefathers, like Dr. Kaunda, who we mourn today?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most important things, which maybe at another opportunity I would like to talk about, is his concept of humanism. Because humanism promoted our value systems. And what I would like to say to everybody is that whatever we do and decide must be man-centered. Because if you are thinking of the next person, you will not do some of the things that your generation and our future generation are doing. The second thing is that we need love. This 4-letter word called love is very important. And it starts by loving yourself. If you do, then you love everybody else. So I would like us to start looking at this 4-letter word love and bring it back in our society. And it was because of the abundant love that Kenneth Kaunda had that he has achieved what he has achieved. So if we want to be great in life, let us embrace our value system. Let us learn lessons from Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. Let us live as a united force. Let us embrace each other, even accommodate dissenting views. But to achieve all this, you need to put education at the center of analysis. Because what will make you appreciate what surrounds you is education and wisdom.
Well, very well said. And I must say here, Professor Luo, that I had an opportunity to watch the interview that you recently had, and I picked it up from there that you not only care for your 2 children, but you have hundreds of other children that you support in terms of giving them an opportunity to have an education and uplift their lives. So well done. That's living the true values that Dr. Kaunda inspired in you.
Let me share the figure with you as at now. It's 355,000 children across Zambia whose education I have supported.
When you say whose education you've supported, as in personally, as in Professor Nkanduluo, or from your pocket?
Through a charity that I chair, and it's called SWAZ. And under another charity called Tacinta, I have supported 200 children of former sex workers.
Well done. I remember the Tacinta program. It was a very renowned program, and well done for having helped all those young ladies through the program.
It's still there, and I still chair it, but SWAZ is much bigger because it's all over Zambia.
Very, very well done. And at that note, I would like to say thank you very much, Professor, for your time. And I hope, viewers, that you've been able to learn one or two things that we didn't know about Dr. Kaunda and indeed about Professor Luo. And hopefully there will be another opportunity when Professor Luo might want to tell us more about her political career. For now, we just want to say thank you very much, Mom. Have a pleasant evening, and goodbye to all our viewers and listeners. It's Patricia Mulenga here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tiende pamodzi ndi mtima umodzi.
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 Ayuti tiende pamodzi. Tiende pamodzi. Tiende pamodzi ndi mtima umodzi.
Pamozi, tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi.
Toloke Limpopo ndi mtima umodzi.
Toloke Limpopo ndi mtima umodzi.
Toloke Zambezi ndi mtima umodzi.
Toloke Zambezi ndi mtima umodzi. Pamozi, tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi.
Kaunda tiende
pamozi, tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi. Tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi.
Tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi.
Tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi.
Tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi.
Oh, Kaunda tiye, Kaunda tiye, pamozi tiende pamozi ndi mtima. Oh, Kaunda tiye, Kaunda tiye, pamozi tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi. Pamozi, tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi. Pamozi, tiende pamozi ndi mtima umodzi.
Stand and sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of work and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for the right. We've won freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is ours, a land fashioned with and blessed by God's good hands. Let us all people join as one, brothers under the sun.